your questions that you posted on the Padlet, a lot of you were talking about like, well, is what we're doing considered blended learning? Teaching online? Is that blended learning? So I want to go over even like the definition today of blended learning. And then I want us to first meet each other and work together to kind of collaborate. And then what I want us to do then is go into really thinking about a rollout plan. And the way we can start a rollout plan is to look at like how I rolled out blended learning for a traditional school. I know there is not one person in this meeting is going back to a traditional school in the fall. So we really got to think about what that might look like for the fall, either being still virtual or being like an A/B schedule, something along those lines. But we have to start with something that we know works in order to build that up. So does that sound okay for everybody? All right, good. I love it. And I see people are still posting to the Padlet. That's great. I'm super excited that you're posting to it. That is going to be our ongoing resource. At the end of today, I'm also going to give you a website and a password. Because you guys signed up to be part of this kind of like co-pilot, pilot group, brain tank or think tank group about deploying blended learning. Can't talk, I don't know why. What we're gonna do is you will get access to a website that has resources that you can use. Now, because you signed up, you get access to it. Doesn't mean to go post it all over the world for me, okay? So you'll get an email along with a website and a password for this deployment plan that you can use. Now, these are all going to be resources that I used with a traditional school, but I think it's going to help us to get to that next point for the fall. All right, so let's kind of get started. I'm just going to kick it off with just a kind of like an introduction. This is what I normally do for when I'm getting people to understand what is blended learning, what does that look like. I do kind of like this like a little introduction using a mini PowerPoint. It's going to have examples of elementary, middle school, and kindergarten. I know a lot of you are posting out there, what does this look like for elementary? So I'm going to be posting that too and showing you examples. Then we're going to bring everybody back together and we're going to do breakout questions. And then we're going to end it up with kind of like that rollout. So here we go. So here's like this, what I normally do when I'm introducing anybody to what is blended learning. And even if you've heard me present before, it's going to be good to hear me say it again, just because I'm going to be tossing in, well, this is what it could look like in the fall. So you're going to hear me saying that. So this is my blended learning deployment plan. When a blended learning deployment plan, what we really start to do is think about the way we use technology. The way we currently use technology in the classroom is posting papers or finding resources, but we really need to start thinking about how we can actually use that technology to really push us to that next level of creating and collaborating and communicating. So when we're implementing blended learning, it's not just technology for technology's sake, but getting something in return. And I think this speaks very true. We have to do something different for these students. We really have to think about, one, we don't know what the future is going to hold. We're always going to have to be prepared for the next pandemic. We're always have to be prepared if somebody gets it in our building that the school will be shut down for 2 weeks, if not longer. So we really need to think about how we roll out our lessons to meet the needs of the students. But how do we do that? Well, let's take a look at what it looked like pre-COVID-19. This are the students working on independent practice. The students are working in small groups, a group of 4. They're doing independent practice. Another group of students are doing digital content, independent practice, and another group is doing hands-on, while the teacher in the middle, you see your right in front of the board, is doing a small group instruction. The way this works is that the students have a checklist, and the checklist is going to be all set up so that way they will be able to see what they need to do and what they need to complete. So they have Y and R. Y, R, and G. Y means I'm kind of get it, red means I don't understand it, and green means I'm good to go. So they're doing a self-reflection on their checklist, as well as answering one exit ticket that goes along with it as well when they're doing the different studios. All right, the mini lesson. The mini lesson in the beginning of blended learning is that small group instruction where students and the teacher are meeting to learn the concepts in a depth where they can ask questions, check for understanding, and really hone in on the skills in that small group. The independent practice is what most people think of like as a worksheet. So this group of students were doing kind of like little worksheets or task cards that they had to complete. If you look around the room, do you see that students are working in groups of 4? She had a large group of students, but she had them working in groups of 4 because she wanted her smaller group. So she basically had, stay with me here. I'm actually going to stop this and walk you through this because I want to make sure that you understand what I'm talking about. She had them set up that her classes were really big. So she had it set up that she had A, B, C, and D group. Okay. Then she had 1, 2, 3, and 4. Groups A and group 1 did the exact same thing, but on opposite sides of the room. So they did independent practice first. Groups B, and 2, they did the exact same thing of digital content, but on opposite sides of the room. C and 3 were doing the FutureReady gallery walk, but they were doing it on different parts of the room. And then when it came time for that mini lessons, group D and group 4 funneled into her. So that really allowed them to have small groups when they were working, but then when she had her mini lesson, all of those students were able to work together. Does that kind of make sense? So this could be an idea that we could set up when we're deploying the fall schedule. Maybe we have an A, B, and kids are doing different things, but they're doing it in social distance format. One of the principals I talked to this week was thinking about the idea that they might have it where students are, their classes are still going to be all held on site, but they're going to really social distance the kids. So they will be in one classroom, and then there will be a support teacher in another classroom, but the teacher has to teach both classrooms at the same time. Wow! Who knows? That's one idea. But at the same time, that's going to work for them. But I just wanted to stop and share that with you. But that could be something that we think about when we get going with this blended learning. So when I was in this, we were talking about when the students are doing the independent practice, they were in small groups. It caused less distraction. The kids weren't bothering each other. The digital content, like I showed you, they were using Desmos, and Desmos was mimicking what the teacher was doing in that small group instruction. And then finally, when I talk about future ready, what I'm talking about is where the students are creating, collaborating, or communicating. In this activity, they were communicating when they're out in the hallway doing a gallery walk. Again, look at this class size. There could have been a group of 8 of them, but since she was really smart about setting it up, there's only 4 kids out in the hallway while she was doing a mini lesson. Okay, what's really happening in a blended learning environment is that we're working with all different modalities. We're working on hearing, kinesthetic learners, visual learners, and we're working with those tactile skills of writing. It's a whole approach. Most people, when they get to this point and they understand it, they're like, well, Marcia, isn't that just good teaching? And my answer is yes, it's just good teaching when we really think about those students and the way that they learn. But we call it blended learning because of the definition of blended learning. And that's where I'm going to stop, because what we're going to do is we are going to actually have you define blended learning before I give you my definition of blended learning. Okay? So here we go. I have a couple more people in here. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. I want you to, first off, introduce yourself. And then second, talk to your group about what you think your definition of blended learning looks like. See if you could come up with my definition, okay? So again, introduce yourself. And then second, I really want you to think about how you would define blended learning. Okay, here we go. I'm sending you all to your breakout rooms. You got this. Okay, so we have 2 of you left, Margarita and Mary. Hi, how are you guys doing today? Did you make it into the breakout room? Are you struggling? Oh, here we go. Margarita, you're left. How are you doing, dear?
Nice to meet you. Okay.
All right, you
So
guys
we're
did it. That's good. Okay, so how would you define blended learning?
I think blended learning is multimodal. So there's different ways that students are receiving content as well as giving, producing learning, proof or evidence of learning. And it doesn't always have to be online. I think a lot of people think when they hear blended learning that it's all through the computer or there's a lot through the computer and, station rotation and getting up and moving around. I think there's just a lot of flexibility with blended learning.
I love it. Okay, keep going. I'm going to go jump on another group.
I've never done
Yeah, it's funny because we've been working so hard on just that in our district of getting teachers to do more of the student collaboration, everything. And so now it's like, okay, how do we keep that moving in the fall so that we don't lose ground also, just like the kids.
I see the technology piece being a data collector too. So you can really hone in on what skills and gaps there are from, this online, wherever we're at right now, and kind of catching up to see where kids are, what they need, and then being strategic when you're planning that small group session. So you're really honing in on those skills that those kids need.
Yep, definitely.
All right, I'm going to leave you guys. You guys got it going. I agree. Collaboration and data. I think those are really key parts. Keep it going. All right, we're getting everybody back. Super excited to see you coming back. Hold on, we got one person coming in. I love the breakout rooms because it just gives you that opportunity to really just talk and not, just like get to hear other people's voices. I got to jump into 2 rooms, so thank you for those 2 people that I got to go jump in. But it's kind of nice just to be able to hear other people's thoughts and what it sounds like and looks like. When I am conducting online virtual workshops now, my big part of my day is going to have breakout sessions. My big part of my day of my workshops are going to really mimic what I want my teachers to do in the classroom. So I think utilizing a breakout room is really important just so people get familiar with that. And they can be like, see what's going on. It's really interesting. I'm going to take a screenshot. So if you want to be in the photo, I have all your beautiful faces in one big giant room right now, and I'm going to take a screenshot of it because I want to post it and say, look at all these people who are willing to give up their time to learn more about deploying blended learning. So get ready. I got all 60 of you back. Oh, and we had 100 people sign up, so thank you for being here. I'm excited. I'm going to take a quick little shot, and we are going to be able to have this as a visual record of what life was like in quarantine with educators. We got it. Okay, so I was able to go in and hear some people talk about what blended learning, the definition of blended learning. I'm going to talk now and give you my definition, as long as the ones that have been written by the Christensen Institute. So I am going to walk you through what the true definition of blended learning looks like and sounds like, and then I think we could build something upon that, okay? So here we go. This was a speed dating activity. This is what you should have done today, but I gave up on it because I was afraid. I just wanted to get to the most important part, definition of blended learning. So here we go. The definition of blended learning looks something like this. Allowing students to work at their own pace, allowing them to have their own path, and allowing them to have place. Pace, place, and path. Again, this was defined by the Christensen Institute by Michael Horn, and he really decided that, or they decided that blended learning is not just technology, but truly getting to that point where students are allowing to work at their own pace, okay? I saw somebody raising their hand, so if you have a question, let me know. It's kind of hard to go back. Can you guys?
I was just gonna say, you have like a dialogue box in front of your slides. I was wondering if you could close it.
Dialogue box in front of my slide.
It says something about your font size.
Oh.
Do other people see that?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. But can you see my whole
There it
screen?
is.
Can I go like this?
Thank you. That's
Can you see
better.
the whole screen though now?
Yeah, that box was just in front of
Okay, good.
the
I'm
right
glad you
corner.
told me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so here we go. Thank you for letting me know. That helps. I don't know why that was up there. So here we go. Pace, place, and path. And then, so this is what pace looks like. Again, starting with a traditional school first. This is a high school chemistry classroom. This is one of my good friends, Kelly Neisen. She's always on the webinars. And her students were set up where they could move at their own pace. They had up on the board all the different activities that they would complete. This is a week and a half worth of activities. She gave the students a checklist, and then the checklist matched what was up on the board. When this student, when she was doing this, she went up to the board to show Miss Neisen that she got something done. So she went up, she moved her name to the next activity. When she comes back, watch what happens right here. She gives a thumbs up, and the reason why is because people started clapping for her. They're like, hey, you got it done. That was a hard one. Because everybody's watching this progression board and seeing how the students are moving. When they were ready to take a test, they took the test. Now, that was the way she set it up. Most people go, hey, here's a week. You need to be here by Friday. So get your stuff done, as however long it takes you. This is where you need to be. But remember, this is something we build up to. This is not something we're going to do on day one. Again, this is not something we do on day one. We build towards this environment, okay? So that is pace. Path. The students are allowed to pick what they want to do first, second, and third. And the way that looks is when the students have a checklist. A checklist is given to the students saying, okay, on Monday, we're doing whole group. Yes, you can still do whole group and blended learning. On Tuesday and Wednesday, you will need to complete these activities that are listed out on your checklist. On Friday, we're going to do a quiz and a formative assessment to figure out where you're going to be for next week. So they get a checklist, they mark off what they do on those specific days. Path means I'm going to start with digital content first because I want to watch it before I do it. Path means I can start with a hands-on activity. If that's the way I learn, I could pick to work on that hands-on activity first. And then of course, if some students like doing the independent practice, in fact, 90% of gifted students will always go to the independent practice first. They just want to get it done and get it out of the way. That's the kind of like their mindset. That's, I can't even tell you how many times I walked into classrooms and those students are all sitting there, I want to just get the worksheet done. Because they feel like that's what's going to be graded. So we also, when we're putting this all together, thinking about what we grade and how we do that, okay? Place, this is where technology comes in. Place means the students have the option to learn online or offline. They have the ability to work in small groups. They have the ability to work with a buddy, a friend, with teachers. Place means they find a place that is comfortable for them. And this is an example of place. It's kind of funny, right? Could you imagine walking in and seeing social distancing inside of laundry baskets? Could happen. This is also place. The students just find a place that works for them. Technology does fit in that place component. One last thing that happens in a blended learning environment by definition is the use of data. These are my good friends from Cypher ISD, and what she is doing is a second grade teacher, and she's meeting individually with the students every Monday, and she's going over the data. When she picked up her phone, she was going over the data saying, okay, this is where you are, this is what I need you to work on. She's customizing the checklist for each of her students, saying, okay, this week I really need you to work on a T chart. You understood how to write the definition last week. Here's what I need you to do this week. She had 48 kids in her second grade classroom. 2 teachers, but 48 kids. Whoa. What happened? Well, what happened when she was doing that was that her students, when she was doing blended learning, went from kind of passing, like say 60%, 70%, 80% were passing the second grade standard test to 100% of our students passed math, 100% of our students passed language arts, 100% of our students passed writing in second grade. 48 kids, 100% passed. Because she was really following a true rollout plan of blended learning, working at your own pace, place, and path, driven by data. When we're really thinking about what fall would look like, yes, it is going to look a little different because of the fact that we are going to be in a social distancing environment and we are going to be doing it differently. But if we could still use some of those guidelines to build it out, I think that's what is going to really make it valuable, is when we really think about what those students are doing. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Anybody have any questions? Either A, you can raise your hand, you can put it in the chat room, whatever you feel like. I love it that people are saying hi to each other. Peg and Molly are both saying hi. Of course, you're my good old Nebraska friends. I love it. How can we do it for a new topic in kindergarten? Okay, kindergarten.
Yes, sir.
So let me answer the kindergarten question first, and then I'll get back to you, okay? So kindergarten. Kindergarten, I would basically start very, very slow. I would roll it out where they're just learning how to get the crayons out of the crayon box, okay? I might just teach them how to be students for the first whole month of school. Then in October, I'm going to be like, I'm going to do a small group with half the class. The other half of the class might be doing independent reading, or because technology is tough for kindergarten. So they might just be doing an hands-on activity. Then I'm going to switch. So I'm going to get them into this routine of going 2 studios at a time. Then when I feel comfortable and the students feel comfortable, I'm going to add a 3rd studio in. And then I'm going to build in a 4th studio. So I'm going to just teach them how to do the studios before I give them a checklist. Because kindergarten was a big question, I do have some examples of what kindergarten looks like. This is coming from my Kirtland School District in Northeast Ohio. They have been working with me for 3 years. So the teachers knew exactly what to expect, so they were ready to build it out. Schools that just come on board with me, they don't necessarily always jump that quick, but this team was just ready to rock and roll. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example of that kindergarten classroom, just because we had a lot of people asking about that. So I want to show you what this looks like. This is a kindergarten classroom. And can you guys see my photos? Yes? Okay. This is a kindergarten classroom in action. What they're doing is they're doing that little mini progression board. Since they're kindergarten students, they are going up and they're marking off their name saying, oh, I got that activity done. So they go up, they mark it off. Here's a little guy who's doing a FutureReady activity. He's going around and counting. They did like a little scavenger hunt. So he's marking it off. This little guy's going on to his next studio. What this team of teachers decided was the kids that were struggling, this is a math classroom, the kids that were struggling with the math concept started with digital content first. They went online, they watched a video either created by the teacher or by another kindergarten teacher, walking them through the concepts of that math concept that she was teaching. Her highest group started with her first. She got them in, she got them going, and then she sent them out. But remember, she really took time to train her kids. She knew the process, so she was ready to go. She kept track of all the data of how the kids were doing, and she started to pull those kids back based off of that data. So what a kindergarten classroom can and really does work well, but it all starts with the training. And I want to say, even though I just showed kindergarten examples, that is exactly what we have to do with high school, middle school, elementary students, is we can't just drop them in. We have to train them to think this way. Okay, somebody else had a question.
Yeah, it was just the letters you used earlier. Instead of yes, no, maybe, I think you had yes and R. Like, I was just wondering, what does that stand for? But I guess we could use our own words, or
Yes, so what that was actually was Y, R, and G. Yellow, like think of it as a stoplight. Red
oh,
means no, I'm not getting it.
oh, okay.
Green means good, I got it. And then yellow means I kind of get it. So they were just
Oh, I
using
see.
colors, red, yellow, green.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You're welcome, dear. Any other questions for me? Because I am going to go into kind of like a deployment plan to kind of show you what that kind of looks like, how to roll it out. Does that sound good? Okay, I'm going to go with yes. I see some of you are writing notes, and I see some of you are like, what is she talking about? So I'm going to go with, I hope that means yes. All right, so we got our
Marsha,
definition.
can I ask?
Oh, yes,
Can I ask a question before you move
yeah,
on?
go for it.
So I've tried. I currently work at a university in higher ed, so I'm not teaching, but I have taught, and I've done self-paced units before, and I have found that when students start going at their own pace like that, a lot of times there's this sense that they're learning on their own, and I'm wondering how you address that in blended learning like this.
Oh my gosh, that is a great question. Sunny, right?
Yes.
Okay, hi, Sunny.
Hi.
So what I do is I set it up where we start where they're moving and rotating, right? And then that's what we call phase one. Phase one is great for that training wheel process. But to get students to buy in, and it's going to answer your question so they don't feel like they're just learning on their own, to get students to buy in, I'm going to start using phase two approach. And in phase two, we really start to think about how to use that data to differentiate. So the students will get a checklist for a couple of days. Every day it's required. If you are in my blended learning cohort or if I'm coaching you, you must see every student every day. You need to pull them back to a mini lesson. So we're going to make sure we're talking to them in that point of view. And then the second thing is in phase two, we start to roll out data meetings. Just like that second grade teacher where she met one-on-one with that student, when they know that I'm checking in on them and they know they're going to be going to a mini lesson, that's when they realize that they actually get more information from the teacher than they do if it was whole group. I do have a couple of videos, and I'll add it to the deployment plan. I have to remember this. I'll add it to the deployment plan where the students actually talk about this. The students said, at first we thought we were learning on our own, but our teachers stopped and said, no, you actually get more time with me when you're doing your small group instruction, when we're doing our data meetings, because you're not waiting for everybody. I think it's just conversations too that we have to have with the students. The students and the teachers feel like they have never worked, when we roll this out and we roll out to phase two, they feel like this is the best way they've ever taught. And they said, where were you years ago? Because now I finally feel like I know my students. The students actually know their teacher. So it's just a building process. And when they feel that way, you stop and you talk to them. Hey guys, this is what we're doing. Is that going to help you, Sunny?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I do have a question about reading and what it would look like for reading and math time. I will get back to that question real quick. Let me go in just so we don't lose everybody. I will have an example to talk to you about how it looks for a block of time for reading and math. But let's keep rolling in because I really want to walk away, and those planes are going to be flying overhead anytime now. So I know I want to make sure I get you out there. Okay, so what it is I want to really, really talk to you about the deployment plan. That's what we're here for, and I will definitely show you lesson examples. This is a coaching strategy that I use with my teachers. When we go back into any learning environment, if we're in a virtual environment, if we are social distancing, or if we're in a classroom, the very first thing we do is change your space. So however you are doing it in the spring, you need to change it in the fall. Because if you change your space, you change your mindset. Example, if I'm doing virtual learning, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my space by creating a schedule for my students. At 8 o'clock, you're in my classroom, and at 8 o'clock, we're going to start whole group. At 8:10, we're going to go into breaking up into studios. So I'm going to change my virtual space of delivering content. As if I'm in my classroom, I'm going to change my physical space. I'm going to make it so that they know something different is going to happen. They're not just going to be able to come in, sit, and listen to me. They're going to have to participate. So changing your space is also really just developing and changing a mindset. Then, oh, I forgot I had a photo. This is an example of changing your space. This principal put this furniture in at 4:30 on a Friday night. I took this photo Monday morning at 8:30 a.m. They had never seen any of this furniture before, but because it was new and it was different, the kids flocked to it. Like, oh my gosh, this is something new. I want to be here. So when you change your space, you're also creating that energy. Something different is going to happen. The second day, when we're rolling this out, we're going to go to 2 studios a day. I'm going to tell the kids on the day that I change the space, I'm like, we're doing something different tomorrow. Tomorrow when you come in, I'm going to break the class in half. Half of you are going to be in a mini lesson, and half of you are going to be doing independent practice. Then midway through the class period, we're going to switch, okay? I get the kids bought in, of course, like I'm very animated. I get super excited. We got this, guys, we're going to try this. Day 2 comes in. The next day comes in, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to break the class into 2 parts, Group A and Group B. But this day, I'm doing a mini lesson, and now I'm going to be doing digital content. Halfway through, I'm going to flip the class. All right? Day 3, same thing, mini lesson, FutureReady. Halfway through, I'm going to flip the class. On Friday, I'm going to talk to them and be like, okay, guys, we switched up our space. We did something different. What did you like? What didn't you like? How can I make it better? The best way to deploy blended learning is to make sure the students are part of the process. If a student makes a suggestion like, well, I was done. I was done and I didn't know what to do, so I was just bored. What can, oh, you know what? That's a great idea. Why not next week we try for 3 studios in one day? So make it their idea part of what your game plan is. Somehow, some way, right? And that's exactly what we're going to do. On Tuesday, we're going to take that lesson, a traditional lesson that we normally teach, we're going to break it up into 3 parts. Mini lesson, independent practice, and digital content. We're going to practice rotating from one studio to the next, okay? On the 8th, we're going to try our very first phase 1 lesson plan. And that looks just like this. 1 mini lesson, 1 digital content, 1 FutureReady, and 1 hands-on activity. And the students are going to rotate every 10 minutes to one of those. We're going to do it 1 day a week. Again, that first time we're rolling out a true phase 1, we're doing it 1 day a week. The next week, we're going to do the same thing. I'm only going to do 1 true, full-fledged phase 1 activity. On the 14th, I'm just going to train them and say, hey guys, remember tomorrow we're going to come in. You're going to go to your learning studios. Here's what you're going to do, and we're going to rock it and roll it. I am going to do it for 4 times and 4 times only. Phase 1, because if you listen by the definition of blended learning, we're allowing them to move at their own pace, place, and path. Phase 1, where we're rotating from one studio to the next, has none of those qualities. So kids aren't going to buy into it because they're being forced to move. They're being forced to get to go from one studio to the next. There is no choice. That's where we go to phase 2. Here's an example of a kindergarten classroom in a phase 1 lesson plan. This was in, I got tons of kindergarten today. This is I think I took this video in November. This was 2 years ago, not this past November, but the year before. But the kids have a timer, the timer goes off, and they rotated to their different activity. That is exactly what we are going to do in that phase 1 learning environment. Now this teacher, if you saw her, she was kind of guiding the kids from one studio to the next. When everybody's there, now she's going to go back and start working in her mini lesson. It's all about training. She was excited. She wasn't frustrated. She's like, this is great. That's what she was saying to me. So I don't want you to think that she was like, oh my gosh, pulling her hair out. This is what it looks like in a 4th grade classroom. So the students are working in that small group instruction. The kids are doing independent practice, digital content. We set it up in a digital content bar. And again, when that timer goes off, they're going to get up, rotate to the next studio that they're working on. The frustration comes in when the kids don't get to finish their work. So that's why we only do 4 days of phase 1, then we move to phase 2. All right, and I think I have this, yep, I do have a high school example. This is one that I did. This is a language arts classroom. And what I'm doing is I'm explaining to the high school students, okay, today we're gonna be looking at student portfolios, and I'm giving them the directions real quick. Here's your checklist. You're going to be going to these different studios. When the timer goes off, you're going to rotate from one studio to the next. Then, when the kids were going, here's a FutureReady activity. Then they moved to some hands-on sorting activity. It was an independent practice, but it was a sorting activity where they were sorting what goes into a portfolio and what does not go into a portfolio. So they're sorting out those different activities. Then they actually went online and they went in and they were doing looking for digital portfolios. What did they like and what did they not like? And that's right here. It's coming real quick. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself a little bit. And then finally, they met with me in a small group instruction. They literally met with me one-on-one, and I was teaching them about portfolios and what that looks like. I was taking the video, but this was my group. The timer went off and they rotated to another studio around the room. All right. What do you think are some pros and cons of phase 1? And what do you think phase 2 would look like? Ooh, can you put those answers into, I gotta watch my time. We'll get time. So put those answers. What are some pros and what are some cons of phase 1? And what do you think phase 2 will look like? I kind of been dropping little hints here. Good question. And then I'm going to jump over and see what you guys have to say. What are some pros? What are some cons? What do you think it's going to look like? Oh, Danny, good answer. No timer. I love it. Students are controlled in phase 1. Erin, exactly. We are still in a lot of control in that phase 1. Teachers love phase 1. They love it because they've still got control. I'm still moving you. Absolutely. Pro, taking time to show them. That's exactly right. I agree. That was a good one, Katie. To what needs to be like. Let's see. Phase 1 gets them interested in something new, but is limited choice. Whoa, Danielle Cleveland, that is a good one. I loved it. That's a great answer. You guys, those are really good. You're exactly right. It's a good stepping stone. When you're in my workshops with me, I always talk about phase 1 as the training wheels of a bicycle. We need them to get started, but we need to get them off so I can fly down those streets and the roads and get to where I need to go. Okay, so phase 2, you think it's going to build on student choice and path. Okay, good. I agree. Creates routine for students. Yes, students need routine. If I am doing a phase 1 lesson plan virtually, what I would do is I would set it up where they are specifically timed to go to a different studio. So again, I'm going to start at 8 o'clock, introduction from 8 to 8:05. Then from 8:05 to 8:15, I'm going to meet with group 1. Then the next group, right? So I'm going to really section it out. So I'm going to meet with 3 groups virtually in that virtual environment. Group 2 is going to start at independent practice, and they'll be there for 10 minutes. Then I'm going to tell them after 10 minutes they need to go to digital content. So I'm going to force them to go to those different places during that time. How will I know they're doing it? I'm going to build in either Google Form checks. I'm going to make sure that they're doing it online so I have eyes and ears that they have to answer a question. But yes, I still think that you could do phase 1 virtually. All right. Here we go. So let's take a look at phase 2 and what phase 2 will look like. You guys are really good. Thanks for sharing. I'm excited. I love this. All right, phase 2 does take away the timer. There is no more timer. Now, I say that but I also want you to know there is a timer. What? I take away the whole group timer, but then I put time limits on their checklist. Like I will say, all right, you need to stay in this area for about 10 to 15 minutes. When that timer goes off, you need to go somewhere else or else you're gonna run out of time. Somebody asked me about language arts. This is where I would tell them for sustained reading, you need to stay in one studio for a total of 20 minutes. So you need to set your timer for 20 minutes, read by yourself, and then when you're done, you can go to another studio. So we saw students where teachers where they take half their class were rotating and picking what they want to do, and then half their class were in sustained protected reading time. And the other kids, when that time went up, they switched, but she had 90 minutes. I have an example of that. If you want me to send it to you, let me know. All right, here's an example of a 5th grade classroom with a checklist. What is happening is the students are on their own, but they're still with the teacher. And I think that goes to Sunny's point. They know that the teacher's going to be pulling them back to a small group instruction. So the teacher's in the middle of the floor. This girl's talking about Freckle.com, and she says, look, I have to be in Freckle for about 15 minutes. So she's in Freckle, and she's working through it, but she knows she has to get it done. These guys are doing a FutureReady hands-on activity. They're playing a game together that mimics what the teacher's teaching in that small group instruction. In the front of the room is the teacher teaching a small group, and she's really working with them, saying, here's what you need to do, this is what you need to do next, while the rest of the class is working on their projects. This little girl looks like she's kind of goofing off, but she's actually working on a project where they were planning a trip to Disney. She's like, yeah, we were talking about Disney and what kind of food we were going to be eating, right? And we had to budget that. And I'm like, oh, okay. The reason why phase 2 works is because they are able to pick and choose who they work with, what they get to do first, second, and third, and they always know the teacher's going to still hold them accountable by completing their checklist and when they come to that mini lesson. When I'm rolling out a phase 2 checklist, when I'm getting ready for phase 2, this is what I do. I do my very last phase 1 lesson plan on that Wednesday. Now, I give them a checklist. Here's what you need to do. Every day they meet with me in that mini lesson. There's something very special about this checklist. There's a lot of color here. The color is represented by what day it is. So on Monday, she put out blue highlighters, and the students highlighted anything on Monday that they got completed. On Tuesday, she put out yellow highlighters, and they highlighted anything that they did on Tuesday in yellow. Wednesday, pink. Thursday, an orange color. So the students were keeping track of what they were doing. The mini lesson and independent practice were always tied together. Everything is, but those were specifically tied together. She would teach a lesson and they'd go do their worksheets. So the kids were working on different activities while they were waiting for it to be called, or they would try their independent practice before they go to that mini lesson. So when I'm doing phase 2, I'm only doing it for 2 days a week in the beginning. So I'm doing it the 7th and the 8th. They're getting a 2-day checklist. Then we're talking about it. Then they're doing it on the 14th and 15th. They're doing a 2-day checklist. Then we're talking about it. And then on the 21st and 22nd, 2-day checklist. And then we talk about it. The reason is because I can't just give them a 5-day checklist and say, good luck. I still had to build up those skills. So what am I doing on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays? What I would normally do. I would normally do like a whole group. I would have them do like a group project. I would have them do a test. So they would still be whole group for the majority of the week, but those 2 days a week, I'm going to really try to get them to work independently and understand that they have choice in their learning. Okay, I know you're going to have questions. Well, one, because I saw them popping up when you guys are doing it. So what kind of questions do we have? I'm worried about the accountability. Yep, the accountability is a big piece of this. How do we hold these students accountable, especially now with the virtual world? How do we hold these guys accountable? So we developed this checklist to really say, here's what you need to do. Last week during one of the webinars that I did, I think some of you were there, I had them, teachers were signing off on the checklist. So when they came up to the mini lesson, the teacher had the checklist and she would sign off on it saying, yes, I saw you. You answered the question. Oh, you got your independent done? Okay, I'm going to sign it off. So the goal of the students is to get all of their checklists signed off before Friday. That way, if they have time on Friday, they have a little bit of freedom to do kind of something that they want to do that still pertains to their learning, but it's more their choice. Maybe they're going into code.org. Maybe they're working in Tinkercad, something fun that goes along with that. So holding the students accountable starts at the beginning, and that starts with a checklist. Put that checklist out there. I'm telling you, that's kind of like the saving grace. How to avoid cheating. That's a good one. So when we get going with blended learning, we are going to give them differentiated checklists and different activities. For example, one of the big things that I always talk about is when we're doing independent practice, I don't give everybody the same worksheet. I go and I cut the worksheet apart. So I have a worksheet or activity that they need to do, and I will cut it apart and put it in different bags. So the beginning of the worksheet usually has easier questions. So bag A has easy questions, bag B is a little bit easier, bag C is a little bit harder. And the students had to pull out questions and answer it and then put it back into the bag. That is one way that we found the students to answer more questions, and two, they have a harder time cheating because what question do you have? I have question 14. You have question, I don't know, I'm just going to do it. There is going to be some students who are going to do it, but it is going to be less likely once you start to implement those data meetings, because when you call those students to the carpet, they have to be able to answer their questions. And I mean, I have seen high school students like almost like pit dripping, like, oh my gosh, my teacher's called me back to talk about what I've accomplished this week. And they get nervous, but excited at the same time. Okay, so definitely watch that. So you're going to have it. You're going to have cheating in a regular classroom. In a virtual environment, it's even harder. So that's where you need to come back to one of my other workshops where we talk about assessment, and we really talk about quality assessment and how do you assess the students. It's not just multiple choice questions anymore, but more along the lines of maybe doing some mini projects. Could they work for breakout rooms online? Yes, I definitely think they could in those breakout room studios. It's depending on how you train your students and you talk to them about like, hey, I'm gonna be jumping over into the breakout room. I think that could definitely be an option. Yes, I think it could work for those learning studios. Or when I'm doing my virtual workshops, talking about blended learning, I'm going to say, okay, you have the next 30 minutes, you need to get X, Y, and Z done. And then when you come back, I'm gonna check in on you when you meet with me in my mini lesson. You guys have a lot of great questions. I love it. Okay, we're getting close on time. Aw, you're welcome, Julie. We're getting close on time, and I want to make sure you guys get that website. So if you have your chat room open, I'm putting the website link there, and then I'm going to go and show you what you're going to have access to. So the website is blendedlearningpd.com, okay? I'm going to show you this first, and then I'm going to give you the password. Because if I give you the password now, everybody's going to leave, and then I won't be able to tell you what I want you to see. So blendedlearningpd.com is going to have a website that looks just like this. So I want to go back to home. Let me go from the beginning so you know where we're going. Okay, blendedlearningpd.com. In here is all of our stuff talking about blended learning. For those of you who don't know me, I have started a blended learning high school. I have coached teachers, admin, coaches how to deploy blended learning. So I eat, sleep, and breathe blended learning. So you're in the right spot to learn about blended learning. So here's all the things, but it's under training pages. Right now we're doing differentiated classes. I'll talk about differentiation that you can kind of work at your own pace. We did high school, and we also did some middle school tech class today. I don't know if I saw my friends in here, Tina and Todd, but they joined me today, and it was a lot of fun. You guys are going to be going to the deployment plan. When you click on deployment plan, you're going to have to put in a password, and I'm going to give you that password in a second. What it's talking about is that we are upping and reinventing what the deployment plan will look like in the fall. Our first kickoff workshop for that is at the end of the month, so we'll have all new resources available that go along with it. We're in the creation stage of all that. If you keep scrolling down, here's where you guys will have all the luxury of all the things that we created last year to start building up your own blended learning. So if you keep scrolling down, remember I'm in deployment plan, keep scrolling down, click on the first month. The first month is the one that is open this week. Next week, I'll open up second month. In here, you're gonna see a deployment calendar, some management ideas, coaching tips and tricks, videos, community. Oh my gosh, there's so much in here. You could spend all week just going through looking at those resources. This is what we use for our studios. We put studio markers up so the kids know exactly where to go. And then here is the coaching tips and tricks. These are the little videos of myself. You gotta tell me, is it better straight or curly? I can't wait. Don't talk about the roots. That's coming later. All right. And then also there's some coaching videos. So this resource page is for you just to kickstart what you can do to get blended learning rolling. Again, as we get going into this and as I keep posting things, we're going to talk about deploying blended learning in that virtual environment. But for right now, here's what you can start looking at to kind of create your own. All right, so you guys are still with me. I'm really proud of you. I know you're just waiting for that password, aren't you? Right? I can see it in your faces. All right, the password. I'm putting it in the chat room so you have it. Write it down. This is for you and you only because you are part of this group. Please do not post it on social media. This stuff is for you because you're hanging out with me and I'm super excited. So, password is there. You got the password. Write that down, blendedlearningpd.com. That password will get you into that deployment page. That is where you're going to be able to go in and use those resources, download them, start thinking about what that will look like. In the meantime, I am going to be posting more onto that Padlet, answering some questions. I loved all your 2 truths and a lie. I was getting a kick out of that. That was awesome.
We don't see the
You did see it?
password.
Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, thank you. That would have been bad. Wouldn't that be really bad if I didn't give it? It just went to one person. Let me send it to everybody. Ready? All right, let me try it again. Here it goes. Oh, and I didn't even say it out loud. That made me make sure you guys are learning. Now everybody sees it. And here's the website. All right, good. I feel like it's like a secret code to a game. blendedlearning.com.
I don't see it. I'm on the chat. Like, where's it supposed to be?
It just went out. Scroll down to the very bottom under the time 3:52. Yay, you got it. Okay. So, what was I saying? I don't remember. Blended learning, who knows? But just go in there and start exploring using those resources, okay? And then next week, that's what I was talking about. Next week, we're going to still have that Padlet up and running, and then we'll bring back together. So start looking at them. Come back with good questions. We're going to do a longer breakout next week, so you have time to go in and say, wow, I looked at this, or I don't understand X, Y, and Z. We are also doing a webinar tomorrow. You will want to come to the webinar. It's going to be an interactive webinar where I'm going to be showing you that deployment plan, but it's going to be a little bit more towards the virtual part of it, not so much that we used to do, but more of that virtual. So make sure you come back tomorrow for the deployment plan. If you need that, let me know. I can send it to you. All right. Any questions for me before we take off? Oh, I'm loving my webinars. Thank you. Go ahead.
Marsha, hi, it's Rochelle Green.
Hi, Rochelle. Questions today?
So the Thunderbirds, though, it was a boo. We only heard them. We couldn't see them, but they were gone. They're gone in under a minute. But my question, though, was, sorry, since you're mentioning these other webinars, like, are you going to shoot this information out to us, or do we have to kind of like look and pick and choose on what we want to do? Or did you say that there is, a linear path we can follow to keep up with all of your stuff?
Okay, great question. So every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are doing a live webinar. The live webinar just goes over like anything with blended learning. Last week was talking about lesson planning. This week is going to be talking about more about lesson planning, but in a deployment plan with the virtual aspect part of it. Okay, so that is a given, and I could definitely make sure I send it out to the whole group so you have that information. Then we also have these online kind of like trainings that you can do where it's like talking about more about what is phase 1, what is phase 2. We're talking about tech tools. You can join at any time. It does not have to be only during when we're doing it. Like I post like webinars that are going with it, but I will send you that link and information too, Rochelle, okay? But yeah, does not have to be in any order. We're just trying to get as much information as we can out there to people to help them to understand blended learning. Yes, the webinars are recorded, Danny. We put them on my YouTube channel. If you follow me at Kish Marsha on YouTube, there are a lot of great videos out there that you can use. I will make sure I send that also out to the whole group so you can go jump on there, okay? All right. Yes, I will send the link again. I need to run another Zoom. Yes, you're welcome. Thanks, Peg. I love you too. I miss you. All right. Anything else? Let me know. Send me an email. You guys all got an email from me, so you have my email. Blow my email up because, you know, I'm just quarantined with my husband and dog. They're getting kind of boring to talk to. So feel free to send anything my way. And I will see you back here next week at the same time, okay? All right, everybody, have a great week. I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye-bye.